Welcome to Let's Get To's National Hat Day Special, a look at the best lids in the game.
And welcome to Let's Get To's National Hat Day Special. Now, before we jump into the show, I do want to do a very special, heartfelt, our condolences to the family of Jon Laurendeau. We're going to talk about him a little bit later on in the show, but we are dedicating this episode to him. He was a guy who loved baseball. He loved baseball hats. And we're going to hear from Erik Mertens a little later on to talk a little bit about this man and his impact on Erik's life. And it was honestly our honor and privilege to dedicate the show to him. So before we jump into the episode, I want to do a quick shout out to who I'm wearing. First, I have the Vermont Lake Monsters crew neck on. We're big fans of the folks down in Vermont, and we're always going to be big supporters of them. And I'm also wearing the Flex Fit for the Wilmington Blue Rocks. Now, in case you've been living under a rock, Joe Biden won the election and from Delaware, and he had his rallies and stuff from the parking lot of the Wilmington Blue Rock Stadium. So we are tipping our cat to Joe Biden, but also to Champ and Major. Now, we're big fans of Champ and Major. Proof positive, we are, as you know, big German Shepherd people, and I've even got a little one hiding underneath my table. What do you think? You excited about National Hat Day? We got some more news about this little one, including why this tablecloth and some fun stuff with her at the end of the show. But no, we wanted to tip our cap to Joe Biden. We're excited about the new direction for the country. And again, stationed out of Wilmington during the campaign. But it is National Hat Day. And those of you who have been following the show or who know me know I love this day. Last year, I did a countdown on my 10 favorite hats. You can still find all of that on YouTube. And a few years ago, I was doing our baseball and cinema class and was just buying hats nonstop on some of the sales for National Hat Day, to the point that I was openly mocked by students who kept a tick mark going and then would send pictures of those marks to my wife. And also my credit card was shut down a couple of times because they thought it was fraudulent. That's how serious I get about National Hat Day. And I wanted to show off really quickly some of the very, very cool hats that I got. Well, since we had our season finale, a lot of them for Christmas, and I thought we would dive right in before we get to some fun baseball cap content this episode. Quint has since gone on hiatus from the show for now. But I wanted to dive into some of the cool caps I got since our season finale, a lot of them for Christmas, and I wanted to show off and highlight some of these brands. And I'm going to start with the Hagerstown Suns. This was a team that did not have a seat when Major League Baseball was playing musical chairs during minor league baseball's destruction, maybe is too strong a word. But a bunch of us really wanted to support some of the teams that weren't sure what the future was going to be like. And so I went ahead and grabbed the Hagerstown Suns cap, which is a very cool ball cap, baseball-looking sun, wearing sunglasses, because why wouldn't he? One of the other hats that I ended up getting actually will be discussed later on in the episode, and that is the Asheville Tourists. And they have now the Astros minor league affiliate, but a very similar logo to the Hagerstown Suns, except this one's a moon wearing sunglasses. So you get a little both, the sun and the moon. Now, my wife is always working to get me cool hats, and she, again, from the Vermont Lake Hat Monsters, I didn't have a Vermont Maple Kings hat, and so she got me their 3930 Flex Fit, really fun logo, the little picture of maple. They've got a lot of that up there, and Lake Monsters apparently. But again, we're big fans of everybody involved with the Vermont Baseball Club. And then I also got a really sweet flat bill snapback from the Norfolk Tides that came in one of their mystery boxes. And I've talked about the Norfolk Tides before, but just love that logo, love that look. So much fun. I mean, it's a sea warhorse. And then we've got the Mahoning Valley Scrappers, who we had on one of our last episodes of Let's Get To of the season. And they are actually going to be part of the new draft league. And we're going to be doing our best to get up and see them play this next year. The Everett Aqua Sox. Now, this is a gift from my mother-in-law. She is the best. She wants to know what you want for Christmas, and then she gets you roughly what you want for Christmas. And what I do is I send family members 5 or 6 teams, pick from, sizes, that kind of thing. So that way they feel like they're still expressing themselves. But, I'm in my 40s. I pretty much have everything I need. let's get down to some of the stuff that I want. One of our newer additions is the Madison Mallards. First of all, great logo. I love the yellow and green color scheme. I know it reminds us of the Oakland A's, but it also reminds me of my friends in the Normal Corn Belters. But again, great look. Cannot wait to get up to see them this year to cover them for Let's Get To. And then I've got the 5950 of the Wilmington Blue Rocks. And I love the logo, so I wanted something that I could have on display in the office and something that I could wear throughout the day. I say that because 5950s don't look very good on my head. That's going to become a topic of conversation today on National Hat Day. And last, but certainly not least, if you've been to Texas, you know we love Whataburger. I'm a big patty melt guy. And then for breakfast, I usually do the breakfast on a bun with sausage. And if you've listened to the show for more than 5 seconds, you know that I'm a big fan of the Corpus Christi hooks. So here I have the 5950 of their Whataburger-inspired design, the Whataburger colors, the shape of what their W font is in, performing the great state of Texas. So these are some of just the new hats that we got since our Christmas episode. And if you think about it, the Christmas episode aired about 20 days ago. And here are 9 new hats. That's about 1 hat every other day. I don't think that's economically sustainable. But what is sustainable should be your interest. We have a great show coming up. We're going to do a hat show and tell. We've got Erik the Peanut Guy, Hardy the Hat Guy, and the New York Yankee hat of the day. Plus, Andrew Nelson is here to talk about the history of the baseball cap. So stay with us. All right, so we are jumping into, it is National Hat Day, and we have got 4 of the main creators for Let's Get To joining me. I am happy to introduce, we'll start with Andy Tomchesson. Andy, how's it going?
Hanging.
He's hanging loose.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Really, I've actually decided that the new year will begin on January 21st. This feels like a poorly adapted version of 2020 so far. So we'll find out in about 6 days after this drops.
I'm doing a special reality as well. As soon as my 18-year-old goes back to college, then I can start my life again.
When does that happen?
This coming weekend on the 16th.
All right. You should make him greyhounded. That's a miserable way to go. We are joined by Scott McIntyre. Scott, how is your new year? Your preface to the new year treating you?
No, I'm going with what you're saying. I just want to wish a happy December 48th to everybody.
Yeah.
No, I mean, in all honesty, okay, so I'm going to say, hey, it's going great. Really? Yeah. Can January just move on? Let's see if February will get a restart.
Well,
because I've had better years already.
You know what? You're the one who did this too. You're the one who said on our show, I don't know why this is going to get any better.
Oh, no, I called it.
We have a cameo.
I just want to mention I called it.
You did.
Nailed it.
We are joined by my brother, Timothy Jedgetts, one of the co-creators of the show. Timothy, how are you?
I'm well. I also have a problem with things going on so far in the year 2021. So there it is.
Yeah, I know that Tim and Jess are in 2 very similar boats. I won't bring those boats up because we're trying to have a positive show. And then Jess Canaster, one of our main guys. I want Jess, how is everything treating you so far?
I mean, there's only 347 shopping days left until Christmas, so just focus on the positives. It's not a new year if the retail world stays the same.
Got it. I love that. Jess and I are doing okay. We got a new puppy. We'll be revealing her full name at the end of this episode. We have made our decision. But one of the things I wanted to do is, obviously you all love baseball, we love hats. I thought it would be sort of fun if we would share, like show and tell, like when you're in kindergarten, hats that meant something to you or mean something to you. And so the way we're going to do this is on the count of 3, we are going to remove the hat we're wearing and put on the first hat we want to show off. And unfortunately, that means that Scott's going to have to reveal his bald noggin. However, Scott, your bald noggin is counterbalanced by my ungodly hat hair that I am rocking right now.
I just want to say I will lean down. So if anyone wants to check their reflection, I will give them the opportunity.
I appreciate that. Okay. Any questions?
Yeah. Can I wear my hat like that? That's
Is
not
it
good.
time?
Okay.
It is ready. 3, 2, go.
I won.
You won. All right, let's start with you, Tim, since you did win. What hat are you wearing?
I'm wearing the it's obviously an Astros hat, orange bill, blue top. Every year it used to be that for our father and your birthday presents, I made sure I took care of our season hats, the first hats of the season for the Astros. And this is the one I got myself that year that we won that World Series. So it's a really important hat to me. I still put it on. It's got a little bit of a Facebook personality because, when we were down and losing in LA for a little bit, I put the hat back, went to the car, grabbed this hat and put it back on, and everything was okay. So, yeah.
I was going to sarcastically bring a prop because now I'm owning it.
Everybody blames on the trash cans. It's actually this hat. So
what's funny too is you'll notice that the funny thing about the story about the whole doctoring of pitches, so that's gone nowhere. If you'll notice it's gone nowhere. Oh, what? Everyone else cheated this game. We've already ran out of stuff. All right, let's go with Jess. You have kind of a unique hat on your noggin.
This is you can't see the bill. This is a Quad Cities River Bandits
Nice.
2015 edition military giveaway hat. It actually also coincided with Memorial Day weekend. I worked for the River Bandits in 2015, so that's how I got this hat. But the thing that means the most to me is the bill that is signed by Sergeant Slaughter of WWE fame.
And G.I. Joe. He served his country, son.
He came to the ballpark that weekend, and I'll never forget. That was kind of my first exposure to what sort of access I get working for minor league baseball. My office happened to be towards the back of the main room where we would shoot green screen stuff when guys would come in and we needed motion headshots and whatnot. We'd just walk them right in, give them a hat and something, and shoot them right away just on a quick pop-up green screen. So we had Sergeant Slaughter, and we had him for a day, so we were going to milk his appearance for all we could. We came up with a 9th inning pump-up video. Bandits are down, got to rally, your Bandits need you, and he did it in one take. So the signature comes from, I was supposed to take him to the airport the next morning, but because I was the intern who did all the shuttling, and of course we've talked about that
With Alex Bregman, yeah.
In other ways, I forget if I had to pick somebody up or drop somebody else off at the airport. I was initially supposed to be the Sergeant Slaughter Uber to the airport. I didn't get to be, and when I came back, my boss, the GM, knew how upset I was that I didn't get to do that. And so I found this hat with this signature sitting on my desk.
That's awesome. Does anybody remember remember Sergeant Slaughter as an actual wrestler? For me, he was always G.I. Joe. I don't remember him at all.
The senior member of the team can absolutely remember that. Yes, sir. Yeah, absolutely.
He was loaned to Houston Wrestling a lot before he made it to the WWF.
Okay.
He was big in WWE. He was big in AWA, and actually he and Hulk Hogan, Jerry Lawler, those guys around the Memphis area, the Tennessee area, through even up into Minnesota. But yeah, I think he really came to fame and got known really well during Iran crisis and the Iron Sheik, and he had quite a few battles.
You can't do that today. Well, that is for sure. Well,
he actually had done heel turns prior
yes, he did.
to that.
He was a bad guy.
He was a bad guy for a long time.
Yep. He's like the Carlos Correa of wrestling. Okay.
So thanks for joining us for this episode of Let's Get to the Mat.
So let me tell you something, brother. Here on Let's Get To, we're all coming out with our hats. We're coming with our best hats for you, brother. You understand? So what are you going to do when the big 12-inch pythons of Jim Christopher run wild on you?
I've just got one python. Let's go with we'll go with Scott McIntyre then, because you did the Ric Flair impression when you asked Baseball Santa for a present. What are we wearing?
Woo! We are wearing my 2019 St. Louis Blues cap. This is the hat I had on my head when the Blues won the Stanley Cup for the first time in history. So yes, it's not a baseball cap, but you know what? A cap is a cap. And I love this thing. I love it the way it's fit. This is what I was wearing. And a little known fact, when the Blues, I'm going to give way too much information, but kind of in that mood tonight, and I haven't even been drinking. When the Blues won, I had actually had to have a procedure done earlier in that day to give and put dye into me so they could check something out. And I was warned that I would have blue or green urine for the rest of the day. As it turned out, the night that the Blues won the championship, I was pissing blue. I swear to God, this is absolutely true.
Wow.
And I knew in Busch Stadium for the watch party when I went to the restroom and I peed blue, I just had a feeling it was our night. And I was wearing this hat while I was pissing blue.
Love it. And Andy, let's explain yours.
This one's pretty easy. This is the cap of my childhood, right? Yeah. So growing up in Houston, I know it's one of the things that, Jim, you love to talk about is growing up in the Astrodome. I know your brother's there too, and you explain it to every one of your minor league guests about, I don't know about minor league baseball, so it's a thing. But for me, this was
Is Andy saying
Ryan.
I should change my shtick? Is that what Andy's saying right now? Okay, sorry, continue.
No. This was Nolan Ryan, but most especially this is J.R. Richard. Now, the thing about this particular hat, this is a replica because it actually fits my head, but most of the guys that I used to watch used to wear their hats like this. Because that was the style right here. And this was very Joe Sambito. So this is the Joe Sambito special when it's not fitting right there.
Props to the second Joe Sambito reference on the show because he was definitely part of our famous Astros if they were all Italian food segment. The boy, last year was weird at this point in time. I'm actually wearing those of you who you guys know, I love the Copa de la Diversión, and this is the first one I've ever gotten. It is the Lansing Locos, and it was a gift, and it was a very surprise gift from, I know Tim and I know Scott know David and Lisa Reyes. They are filmmakers here in Texas. They know I love baseball, and they just ordered the hat, and it was a random thing at the festival. Oh my God, the festival's it's 18 months ago now because we haven't had one. Yeah, handed me the hat and it just means a lot to me. So, and it's, again, I love the Copa look, and this one is the most Copa of all of them. I love it. Okay, everybody. 3, 2, 1, switch. This is a ball cap right here, boy. Oh my God, Andy. Okay.
What did he do? Is he the cat in the hat?
He's got the Orioles. Okay. Andy, explain why you got an Orioles lid on. Andy, you are muted. That's the first in Let's Get to history. Here's hoping I remember to go back.
Fantastic. Sorry. So I'm wearing an Orioles hat, and this is actually the Orioles hat that I bought in 1988 to commemorate their 0-21 start to the Major League Baseball season. Because I was an Astros fan, which is at that point, as we just mentioned, was kind of a middling prospect, right? You're going to be a 500 team. Maybe you compete, maybe you don't. It's fun. The options in 1988 were going to be the A's or the Reds, who were going to be incredible, or you go the other way, which I was kind of contrarian in high school, and I did. I went with the worst team in Major League Baseball and bought myself an Orioles hat. And this is the actual Orioles hat from that time period. It does not fit my head at all because it's a 7 1/8, and somehow my head has grown 4 sizes since I was 17
years old. You use Matt Barry Bonds diet?
Joe Sambito hair you got going on there.
That would be fantastic.
You have a glorious mane, by the way.
I need to get the highlights done, but yeah.
It's glorious. Scott, what do we got on?
We have the 2019 Frontier League Championship of the now defunct River City Rascals because that was just really, that was it was my first real indoctrination firsthand into independent league baseball, and it became heartbreaking. It was such a story, right, Jim? To watch. I'm hearing you. And there's another one sitting back here behind. I fell in love with the stadium. I'm glad the Hoots are still there and able to play. I fell in love with that stadium, with the organization, with the whole story and everything that even though it led to that team's demise, they still found a way to win the championship. kind of on their own dime a little bit too, as things have turned out. So it was it was just a really good tug at your heart kind of story that hooked me into independent league baseball. And then as you and I talked more, I think it had an effect on you, and I think it had an effect on the show. So it means a lot to me. Yeah.
Definitely.
And they went out champs. Who can beat that?
Definitely had an effect on me. Mr. Canaster.
This is a San Jose Churros hat. The Churros are now the Copa identity of the San Jose Giants, but it first was a alternate identity of the team the year before they joined Copa, because they wanted to commemorate a long time, at least 25-year churro vendor who comes to the games. He has a cart in the lobby area. He's got a stand down the right field line that he fries everything fresh, and he walks around with a giant Tupperware and a cowboy hat. Oh,
I love that.
But the coolest part of this hat is this is not just a San Jose Churros hat. This is the first San Jose Churros hat. I worked for the San Jose Giants a couple of years ago, and it was the year of my honeymoon, and I was going to miss Churros night. I was going to miss the first night that they were going to be the Churros. They had Churros jerseys. They had pants where the pant stripes down the sides were giant cinnamon-colored churro stripes, like they were churros down the sides of black pants. It was obnoxiously gaudy, but it's minor league baseball. And the hats did not come in on time, but I was able to convince my boss to let me take this hat with me on my honeymoon to England for work, for marketing purposes. We started the hashtag What's Chur Location. And so we went to England. And so my hat, this hat traveled with me for work. I learned that people in England don't wear baseball caps, and I stood out quite a lot as an American for wearing a baseball cap. But also this hat has been to Stonehenge. It's been to Big Ben. It's been to the London Bridge because marketing. What's Chur Location?
Tim just has a question. He's embarrassed to ask, but I'll ask. Is the London Bridge still standing, or has it in fact fallen down?
As of 2018, I mean, it's 2020 plus. So at this point, it could have fallen down, but as of 2018, it was still standing.
Who knows? All right, Tim.
Just to be clear, I was going to make a Spinal Tap joke, but so I'm wearing the Myrtle Beach Makos. So they're Myrtle Beach Pelicans. I guess it was an alternate identity kind of thing they did. But the reason this hat's so significant to me, it's the first minor league hat I ever got. Jimmy actually gave it to me as a gift, my first actual minor league hat. I wear it all the time. I love it. It's got a sweet Mako logo on there, and
I think it's superior. I think it's a better identity than their actual identity, quite frankly.
Yeah, I agree. I actually going through it today and kind of looking at the Pelican stuff. I'm like, man, that Mako shark is so cool. But what I found out by doing that research is the Makos are actually a little league team in Myrtle Beach. So
that's cool.
So I think that's why they did their identity. So yeah, I love this hat though.
So I have on a 47 brand, basically dad hat, Astros cap, right? Regular, orange bill, blue, like top part crown, I guess. But this is significant to me, especially because this is the first hat I got when they went back to the original branding. As we've talked about ad nauseum on the show, to the point that I'm being trolled by people I don't know for not liking the brick and black Astros run. This hat felt like home, horrible. But it's also significant because before every film that we would shoot, I would get a new hat to wear on set. And so this was the one I wore during our movie, The 5 Year. So every day when I wasn't acting in the film, I was wearing this hat. And if you can probably tell it needs a little bit of an oil change is needed inside that thing. Shooting a Lake Travis in July will do that to you. But yeah, this hat's, even though I really don't wear it anymore because I've kind of moved on to liking the 3930 from the new era, I'll always keep this one because it matters. All right. Look, it's pole position, the old arcade game. Go.
I couldn't see him because the camera was on Scott.
Damn it. Oh.
Some spirit fingers.
All right, Jess, you get to go first.
So this is a Mad Hatter hat.
Yes.
I mean, it's, yeah. I have always loved Disneyland. It's been a family tradition of my parents to go for Thanksgiving. It was every year of my life tradition up until last year. My parents had gone for 37 years straight for Thanksgiving. I didn't know what a Thanksgiving dinner was until probably like 2007, 2008, because for me, it was just a corn dog on Main Street. So I've always loved Disneyland, and this hat, to speak to what Andy was talking about with, the rebellious teenage phase, for me, it was not wanting a pair of Mickey Mouse ears because that's what everybody had. I wanted something that stood out a little bit different because I always considered myself a little bit, weird. And so this is where this came from. Yeah, it doesn't show at all that I'm still a little bit off, is it? So this hat is cool because, I will wear it when I go to Disneyland now as an adult, proudly, and get asked about it. And people say, oh, that's a sweet hat. Where did you get it? Oh, I got it on Main Street 20 years ago. And then they get sad. But my grandmother, some number of years ago, she did a production. She was in a children's theater in the late 90s, early 2000s. I guess this hat is more older than 20 years, but sure, let's call it that. And so they did a production of Alice in Wonderland. And so she needed to borrow my hat. And so it's just a cool connection for her because this is, it's foam core on the inside. It's been well loved. The supports Lindsay has sewn into place over the years because it got wet one time and just got all flat. So, but yeah, it's a connection with my grandmother over something not at all baseball, but the headwear, I think it still matters because it's a connection, whether it be baseball or not. That sort of connection is with things is nice to have because you can look at something and automatically it dawns on you. Those feelings come back to you, and so this is fun anyway. But it's fun to have a nice connection too.
Absolutely. And speaking of that hat size, we'll go to the largest noggin on the show. Andy, you're wearing a hat that I know that I'm very familiar with.
This hat is from the Tacoma Rainiers. I think this is one of their alternate looks. This is probably my favorite place in baseball. Not necessarily my favorite team. And I love the Pacific Northwest. I love going to Seattle. Can't stand the Mariners and was really disappointed when I spent some time at what I guess is now T-Mobile Stadium. The pink neon has not made it any better from an experience standpoint, but just a short 30-mile drive on the other side of SeaTac, you get to Tacoma and Cheney Stadium. And it's just a world of difference. And if there was a closer representation of the difference between what Major League Baseball does wrong and what minor league baseball does right, they're right there in those cities. And it's a cool vibe. It's also a beer hat, so that it fits a couple different things for me because Rainier beer is still king up there in Seattle. So it's a fun time for me when I get to wear this hat. And I don't even wear red very much in my wardrobe at all, but I've actually bought new red Vans so I could coordinate this hat with more things to be able to wear.
Let's get two shoes. I'm into it. No, you know what? I'm actually going to talk a little bit about Cheney Stadium at the end of the show when we do the thing with the dog. But I couldn't, to me, it is my favorite baseball atmosphere, bar none. It's always hard to factor in Minute Maid because that's your team. But just I had an absolute blast when we were there. Scott.
Getting my highlights done. I'm coordinating my Vans with my cap. Really? Okay, never mind. What? That's cool, Andy. No, it's a good look.
A little bit of
Arkansas,
it's a good look, right, Andy? Just a little bit of Arkansas.
I understand when you don't have hair that you don't understand maintenance of hair, but it's a thing.
I have hair. I shave my back like every other day. What's the big deal, dude? Look, this is the team I grew up with, right? Before there was anything else, I'm an Arkansas Razorback fan. When you grow up in Arkansas, there is but one team. There are no pro teams. There really is only one university there that makes a difference. And we have an exceptionally good baseball program, and really kind of have since 1979. So I am absolutely rocking the woo pig suey Razorback look. You better believe it. I will say Tim was talking earlier about the first minor league cap that he had. I remember the first minor league cap I had was for the Arkansas Travelers. It was gray with a blue brim. It had their A. Typically, it had the A with a horse jumping through it. But on this one, it had a Confederate general jumping through the hat. I don't think I could wear that hat anymore, even if I could find it. But so yeah, Tim, I would say just be glad you can still, put your first major league hat on your head. I don't think I could walk down the street.
Yeah, it seems a little controversial.
Yeah, there's a little something going on there. I don't know.
Yeah,
a little bit. Hey, just Tim. So Tim, explain your hat. And what I love about the hat you're wearing is I posted wearing it and had to buy about 6 copies for like Darian Sills Evans, who I know you know, and Scott knows. Like, dude, I have to have that hat. Like, I don't care. I'm not an Astros fan. I need the hat. So what are you wearing?
I am wearing the Apollo hat. Was that from the 2019 season? Yeah,
it was like a decade ago. So yes, 2019.
It was 50,
whatever.
The 50-year anniversary of the moon landing. So obviously, because of Houston, big love on that. So they went with it, and there was a whole uniform day where they had the Apollo patch on their sleeve, and of course the hats. I've always been a big space nerd. Anything space I jump right into it, especially the NASA program. And whenever it came to this hat, I'm like, I feel like I might have had this idea years ago, but I obviously didn't. But I had to get the hat, and I remember seeing, I guess, Facebook when you had it on there. I was like, I need one, and I need one fast. So yeah, this is probably my favorite hat that I own. Just because of it, my 2 favorite things in the world just kind of meet up, baseball and space.
It's weird because I know Andy and Scott and I are old enough to remember Challenger and remember all of that stuff that went with it, and I've always loved that attention, that part of our city, and I almost wish the Texans had embraced it as well. Like, first of all, the Texans is a stupid name for a football team, but on top of that, remember the Chronicle, you could write in and suggest a name, and being a Cowboys fan, I got a little sarcastic, like maybe be the Hobos, but really
junior varsity.
They should have been junior varsity. The Apollos or something like that would have been a really cool nod and staying in theme.
Right.
Houston didn't even rate getting a shuttle, so obviously our space legacy is not where it needs to be in the public eye anyway.
So you're saying that we don't have a shuttle on display? It's
New York got a shuttle. We didn't get a shuttle.
We have a replica. We have the plane with the the plane that kind of launches the shuttle out. Yeah. We have that.
We have an arch,
but it's not real.
And Scott and Jess, I apologize because this is literally 15-year-old news that we're talking about right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Damn you, Washington.
Speaking of 15-year-old news, or more like 21-year-old news, so I'm wearing the Durham Bulls hat, and obviously the movie's the 3rd best baseball movie ever made. It is the 1st best rom-com disguised as a baseball movie ever made. I watched the trailer to my kids, and there's 0 baseball in the trailer, by the way. Lots of sex in the trailer, but no baseball. But really why this hat means a lot to me is that my wife got it for me. And this is not the only hat she's got me. It's not the first hat she's got me. I picked this one, though, because she landed she had a business meeting in North Carolina on the opposite side of the state and basically did a 4-hour round trip before her flight to get to the team store to pick the hat up. And what that means at a grand scale is she loves me, but it also means she supports this. She supports all this stuff. So my best times at a ballpark are times spent with her, followed closely with you guys, not closely, but followed by you guys. But no, that's why it means so much. So
I will say this: if I didn't know you and I didn't know Jess, I would think that she's like 3 feet off camera with a rolling pin, going, "Yeah, that's your favorite hat, right? That's your favorite." No, that's awesome. And she is the type of person that would drive 4 hours out of her way.
Yeah, it was really awesome. I really appreciated it. All right, guys, so that wraps up the Hat Day special. We are going to have all of you guys back on for our season premiere when it happens. Now we're going to go around real quick, less than 30 seconds. Andy, your hot shot question is, are we going to have to come up with stupid filler, or will we have actual baseball to talk about, and will pitchers and catchers report on time?
Actual baseball will be actually around to talk about. There might not be fans, but there will be baseball.
Jess, minor league season. When do you think we're going to find out what the dates are going to be for that? For the affiliated, if we're still calling it that, minor leagues.
The way it seems to be going, AAA will probably find that out first, because AAA players seem to be set up to have spring training with major leaguers. So AAA will probably start first. We may not find out everybody else or everybody altogether until all the PDLs get signed and announced, which is supposed to be as late as like early February.
Scott, will the affiliated minor league? I feel like, what was that? Wrong. What was the McLaughlin group? Is what I feel like. Scott.
Wrong answer. Now, Albert, let me send this to you.
8 people get this reference. Scott, though, for real. Will the affiliated minor league baseball learn from the indie leagues and the collegiate summer leagues last year and find a way to have fans? And therefore, will there be affiliated minor league baseball played?
Yeah, there will be. They will definitely have fans in the stands. One of the things that I've seen even early on right now, I'm wearing the Razorback hat, but the Razorbacks announced today that it looks like they'll be able to have 40% capacity and still maintain social distancing guidelines at Baum Stadium. And I think you're going to see minor leagues. They've got to learn from it, right? You've got fans in arenas and inside stuff, and the vaccines coming along. Yeah, we'll have fans in the stands, butts in the seats, and baseball. The crack of the bat's coming.
Tim, Astros question. Am I crazy to think that if the Astros sign a combination of Hendricks and Brad Hand, which they've both been linked to, that actually makes them a better team as opposed to signing George Springer?
I think so. I think I think so. I mean, Springer's one piece, and that is a hot question on the spot. But yeah, no, I think it does. You got to kind of say bye to Springer. It sucks that he's gone. I feel like the whole situation of us signing whether Brantley or Springer, possibly losing both, I think at this point, anything makes us better. It's just, we got to get guys. We got to get bodies. We got to get some players going. So,
Andy, I'd love to give you a retort, but we're up against it. We will circle back in one.
There's no outfielders.
I really want to give Andy
outfielders.
I really want to give Andy a hot shot question. How many days into spring training before Dusty Baker makes a Hank Aaron reference? But I'll pass. Never mind.
-12.
So we're excited to be welcomed to Let's Get To, no stranger to the show, Erik Mertens, Erik the Peanut Guy. Erik, actually turns out you are our last guest we recorded in 2020.
Yeah.
And the first one we're recording in 2021.
Let's go!
Bookend. It's our Hat Day special, and obviously to look behind you, you are passionate as well about hats.
Yes.
What makes a good hat?
Dude, okay, first off, happy 2021, everybody.
Yeah.
We made it, one more revolution around the sun. And I'm so happy you reached out to me about this show, James. National Hat Day is my favorite holiday other than Christmas. So this is big. I could talk about minor league hats. We could start our own show about minor league hats. I'm so excited for this. So this is a fun little tidbit. A couple years ago, we were designing our Copa de la Diversión hat for the Tri-City Dust Devils. And our president and our vice president and general manager, Brent and Daryl, they knew that I am obsessed with minor league hats. So they actually asked me to jot down the top 5 things as they were designing the hat for the Viñeros de Tri-City. Top 5 things that I, Erik the Peanut Guy, think makes for a good hat. So I would be happy to share that with you right now.
You got to help design a hat?
Yeah.
Way to bury the lead there, guy. That's awesome.
It was a group effort. So we all had input, and
yeah.
My big claim to fame, I think, they probably don't even remember this, to be honest, is I got to choose the color of the eyelets, like the 6 little eyelets. So that was, that's my big accomplishment of life.
Well, okay, so let's go through that then, because particularly minor league baseball, and I hate using the word, but we'll use the word, where the looks can be weird. But not all of them translate as well as others. Like there are some that do and some that don't. What for you really works or pops?
Okay. Number one, this is Erik's top 5 tips on what makes a good baseball hat. I think all good minor league hats, especially, and major league or independent college or that, have contrast in colors. So I think a good team look will have a dark color and a bright color. So here's an example. Here's the Pensacola Blue Wahoo's alternate cap, and the crown is navy blue for those listening and not watching. And the bill is neon pink, or what they call bright rose, I think. And it just pops. If it was all navy blue, it wouldn't be as fun. So that's number one, contrast in color. Number 2 is I think a good logo on a hat has a bold white outline or a bright color outline. So here's the Lake County Captains, one of my favorites. This is their alternate hat. And again, 2 different colors of crown and brim, but also the eyelets and the squatchy, the button on the top, are different colors too. So a lot of contrast. But if you notice, they have a great logo, but it's got a really bold outline that just makes it pop.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's number 2, I think. And number 3 is very close to it. I don't know if you can tell, but there's different levels of embroidery. Like it's a 3D, it's a 3D logo. So back in the day, I mean, caps have progressed so much and have evolved over the years, but now you have all these different layers and levels. So that's 2 and 3, the bold outline and the 3-dimensional embroidery. I think this might be stretching a little bit, but I think a minor league team would want to have one good hat that has a letter for the hometown.
Sure.
I'm wearing my favorite Dust Devils cap. It has TC on it for Tri-City. This is my hometown. I'm proud of it. This is my team. I root for them and I work for them. So I'm always wearing this hat. I wear this hat, and all the other ones behind me I never wear because I want to rep my hometown.
Got it. Yeah.
So if you got S for Spokane or TC for Tri-City, that's one. And then I think it's also important to have another hat with a fun character, a fun logo. So this here is our home hat with Dusty the Dust Devil on it. I think that's important. That's the 4th tip. And then the 5th tip.
Before we get to 5, what do you think about sometimes when you see like there are sometimes when I'll go, and sometimes I'll just be bored and pick a form of baseball and go through and find a team I've not really heard of before and look. Sometimes I get bored. I think it's a little lame when it looks a little too like we're trying to look like a major league team. Like a Tri-Cities, you're right. And it's one of my favorite hats. It's back here. It's great. But if it had just been an interlocking TC to look like LA, that would have been lame.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you. And one of the things I love about your passion for the sport is you love merch, you buy hats, you buy shirts, but if it's just a recreation of the major league affiliate, then I don't know, it's not as exciting. So I agree.
Yeah. I have none of that. I think the closest thing I have is I do have an Oklahoma City Dodgers hat because I liked how they did the OK LA with that LinkedIn. But other than that, I'm not interested in the Mississippi Braves. Sorry. I mean,
right. Yeah. Yeah. They have a classic hat, but it's behind me somewhere. But yeah, it looks very similar to their parent club. Interesting fact. There's a lot of baseball history in the Tri-Cities, Washington, and the old caps of the Tri-City Adams, the Tri-City Braves. These are teams like in the 50s and 60s.
Sure.
It's basically the Minnesota Twins TC interlocking. I mean, almost the same colors. We weren't an affiliate of the Twins. It just looked exactly. And nobody wants to wear that anymore. We want something unique. So
y'all were like there is a town in Texas that starts with a G in their football helmets, the Packers G, but they just changed the colors.
Yeah.
That was just what y'all. Okay. So tip number 5.
Okay, tip 5. It's just a basic one, and I think my friends with the Dust Devils laughed when I said this one. It's just got to look good. Like it's got to be a hat, like you were just talking about, that someone will see a stranger wearing and say, "Dang, that looks great. What is that?"
Yeah.
Starts conversation, and then more people will want to wear a fun hat, and it starts conversations. It's free advertising for the team. It's more merch sales. I mean, I have hats from towns that I've never heard of growing up on the West Coast.
Right.
But, either I visited the team, so I bought a hat when I was on a ballpark road trip, or a friend gave it to me because it's just a dang cool looking hat.
You know, it's funny. I think the Savannah Bananas have embraced that more than most other teams. Like, they really have gone for, we're going to be a national brand, whether anybody's ever showed up to watch us play baseball before. Yes. I will tell you this, as you can tell probably, and I noticed, I am a sucker for the Carolina blue, navy blue combo, and in any way, shape, or form. Like, that is my, to your point about the contrasting thing. What are some hats that you have that kind of mean a little bit to you? In the first segment of the show, we did that with some of the main hosts. We sort of talked about some of the hats that have an emotional attachment for us. What about for you?
I'm really glad you asked me this, because it goes to the heart of why I am just a passionate fan of minor league baseball in general. There's fun looks, there's fun colors. We just talked about that stuff, but really it's about relationships and memories and families and friends. And so I have 3 here I'd love to share with you very quickly.
Please, I would love to see them.
Thanks. And then I know some people are watching this online. Some people are just listening to it, but this is the road hat for the Idaho Falls Chuckers. And this ballpark was the first ballpark I ever went to a game at. I lived in Idaho Falls before I moved to Washington State. And when I was 4 or 5, my parents took me to a minor league baseball game in Idaho Falls. They weren't called the Chuckers back then.
Yeah.
And then also what's really special about this hat is my parents have bought me hats. My significant others have bought me hats, but there is a couple that go to a lot of Dust Devils games, Jon and Jon Laurendeau. And they knew that I love baseball and collecting hats. And so this was maybe the 3rd or 4th year that I worked for the Dust Devils of the team's existence. And one day Jon showed up with 3 hats for me. They had gone back to Idaho Falls where they used to live. So he bought me this hat. He's from Connecticut. So they bought me a New Britain Rock Cats hat and a Pawtucket Red Sox hat. And it blew me away. It was the first time that I realized the nicest thing anyone can do for me is buy me a hat. And I want to honor Jon. Sadly, he just passed away last week.
Oh no.
Yeah, he had a long health battle. And Jon and Danya are some of my most beloved friends I've met working with the Dust Devils. And it's because of their love for me and their generosity. So this goes out to Jon. This goes out to Danya and the Idaho Falls Chuckers. So.
Did they know when they got you the Chuckers hat that was your first experience? Like, or was it just?
No.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's beautiful.
Isn't that cool? And man, when you invited me to share some hats, I really had to like whittle it down from 20.
Yeah.
I have 325 minor league hats. And so to pick 3, I was like, this is tough. But the next one I chose is the Asheville Tourists home hat.
Okay.
Not only, I think it's the best logo and the best color scheme for a lot of those reasons we just talked about. It has a dark color and then it has this bright, unique color. No one else has this shade of like jade or mint. It's like a light teal that really pops. It's one of my favorite ballparks I've been to. But the main reason I chose this hat was because my dad bought it for me. And my dad passed away 3.5 years ago. And he bought me my first ever fitted baseball hat. We're big Mariners fans. It was a Seattle Mariners hat. I didn't even know about fitted hats. And this was before like online shopping. So he called Safeco Field. He gave him his credit card number and he surprised me. And that hat started my love for fitted 5950 New Era hats. So not only is this a hat that I enjoy for the look, but I remember my dad, one day we were sitting on the couch, this is years ago, and he asked me, he said, is there a hat out there that you don't have that you'd like? And I just thought we were just chatting about it. And I told him it was this Asheville Tourists hat before I visited the ballpark. And he surprised me with it. So this is for my dad, Asheville Tourists.
I love that. I think dads are funny about this. Like I'm in my 40s. My brother Tim, who helped create the show, is in his mid 30s. And when we go to the game, we have our own money. We still go to the pro shop. He still puts them on our head to make sure they fit. But here's the thing, Erik, they have to be the official on field. It's like the Astros going to be like, listen, Jim, we need a right-hander and you have the right hat on. Please come down. You know what I mean? It's funny. Dads in baseball, man. That's
the best.
You know,
I love that.
Beautiful.
Yeah, man. I think that's what baseball is all about, is that intergenerational love and family.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that kind of leads me, actually, nice transition, to my third hat. Of course, I'm such a homer. I was just going to show you 3 different Dust Devils hats, but I'm wearing one. So this is the Lexington Legends home hat. Again, not only is it just fun, it has a big freaking mustache.
I love that, yeah.
And I love the green and blue color scheme. It's unique. Not a lot of, I don't think any other team, maybe the Hartford Yard Goats have this, but not a lot of teams just have bright Kelly green. It reminds me of this old Seattle Seahawks look.
Yeah.
Hartford Whalers. But at the year after my dad passed away, my mom started joining me on some of my ballpark road trips. And it was a really cool way to honor dad and to grow closer together. She loves baseball too. I was really blessed to grow up in a family that celebrates baseball for the right reason. So one of our first trips was to Kentucky. Neither of us had ever been there before. And we loved the logo. We loved the look. So we bought the hat. But the reason I chose this hat, again, is for relationships. At that one game in Lexington, Kentucky, again, we're from the Northwest. We've never been to that area of the country. My friend Ann Mapson, shout out to Ann, she used to work for the Dust Devils. At that time, she worked for the Legends. And so she gave us a tour. We got to catch up. She loved my mom. My mom loves her. It was fun. So that was the first connection. The second connection is on the tour of the ballpark. We were both wearing our Tri-City Dust Devils shirts. A mom of one of the Lexington players said, Tri-City Dust Devils? Like, what? Yeah. Like, and I think it was her same son, or maybe another one of her sons, used to play for the Dust Devils.
Oh, wow.
And then he got traded, and inter-organizational stuff. And now he's playing for Lexington. And you're like, what? That's amazing. And then this is the same game. I was already like, man, I love minor league baseball. I'm a friend. We're meeting new friends. I think I posted on Twitter that I was at the Lexington Legends game. And my cousin, Connor Mertens, from the Tri-Cities, Washington, like tweeted at me. And he's like, dude, my friend, also named Connor, from the Tri-Cities, was drafted by the New York Mets, now plays for the Columbia Fireflies, who are playing the Lexington Legends tonight.
Oh my God.
And he pitched. He was a relief pitcher. He came in and pitched. And after the game, I waved him down on top of the dugout, and I was wearing my Dust Devils gear. He's from the Tri-Cities. He was like, Peanut Guy? And I was like, dude, you know my cousin. And so this hat not only reminds me of my mom and joining me, but of the beauty of minor league baseball and how it connects our whole country.
The thing before we get to our last 2 pre-programmed questions, the thing I did notice though is that 2 of the hats you pulled up are 2 of the teams that didn't have chairs when the musical. But I think both communities are committed to keeping baseball, so I think hopefully those memories get to keep going. Yes. Real quick, I did notice too on camera right, second from the middle on the very bottom, you have the Fort Myers Miracle hat.
Yeah.
Who are now the Mighty Muscles. We can debate ad nauseum whether we think that's a good name. How are you for that? Like, you're like, I don't even care, or will you now switch that hat out with a Mighty Muscles hat?
Let me move my camera. You can see the Mighty Muscles hats on the top row now.
Oh, there you go. Perfect. And asked and answered. Okay, good.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Fort Myers Miracle had a classic name, a classic look. That M with the palm tree is such a clean look.
Mm-hmm.
The Muscles logo is a little campy. It's a little gimmicky, but what I do like about it is that they're one of the 4 teams that use purple as a primary color. And I love teams that stand out, that have unique colors. So if you see a bright green or a bright purple hat, you might know who it is just by the look, because everyone is red and blue. So I like the color change. I could take or leave the name change, but my good friend Andy, who used to work for the Dust Devils, works for Fort Myers, and I wish them nothing but the best.
Yeah, they were one of the first teams we traveled to, and they just hanging out with Marshall, the play-by-play voice at the time. I don't know if he's still there, but no, it was a great experience and a great ballpark too. Honestly,
wow,
I love that ballpark. All right, so I guess last question then. Obviously you and I share passion, and I want to shout out to my mother-in-law, who's a beautiful person who likes to get me what I want for Christmas. And so she wants to know what you want. How do you and so what I do is I send her 5 teams or whatever. Do you have to like help people go to so you don't get doubles, or how does that work? Or do you even concern yourself with such things?
No, dude, I hear you so much. Literally, one of the nicest things anyone can do to me is buy me a New Era 5950 minor league baseball hat.
And what's your size? Throw that out there to the universe.
Yes,
people.
thank you. My size is 7.5.
There you go.
It used to be smaller, but I keep getting smarter. That's what I say. And dude, hat swaps. Twitter's amazing for hat swaps because I can get Dust Devils hats,
Yep.
nicely and easily. And people who work for other teams, I've done hat swaps with. It's great. I have a rule that I have to visit a ballpark in order for me to purchase the hat, or else I would go broke just buying everything.
I should adopt that rule.
Yeah, no, you shouldn't. The problem is I've been to 151 minor league ballparks, and so whenever a team comes out with a new hat, if I've been there, I'm like, yoink, I'll get it and spend more money. But I've had some very good friends, very dear friends. My family have asked me, kind of like my dad did with that Asheville Tourists hat, are there any hats you want but you haven't been to the ballpark? Because if I get a hat as a gift and I haven't been at that ballpark, it would be rude to refuse the gift, So I think like you, I have a short list of hats that I would like to get. I drop little hints. I give my hat size. Let me tell you this. I love the relationship you have with your wife and how much you love each other and how much you talk about her. I want to give my girlfriend, Karina Leon, a shout out. She's the most beautiful person in the world. She bought me a gift certificate for a lot of money to a certain hat store. Shout out hatclub.com.
Hatclub.com.
Who make custom minor league hats. And that gift card's going to last me a few months of drops. And so the nicest thing she could have done was buy me a hat, but really she ended up buying me like the equivalent of 5 hats. That I get
5 hats, yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, she definitely wins like significant other of the year. She's in the running. It's January. She is in the running for significant other of the year. Erik, thanks so much for jumping on. I know we're gonna have you on a bunch this season, but real quick, we're gonna transition for 1 second to college basketball.
Let's go.
All of a sudden, the UT Longhorns are good.
Let's go. Hey.
So we are excited to welcome for the first time to the show, internet legend, hat collector, Hardy the Hat. Come on, you're an internet legend. Hardy the Hat Guy. How's it going, man?
That's the rumor I started, by the way. That's the whole legend word there. So apparently you got the check in the mail that's,
it cleared.
You to use that word legend right there.
Yeah. It even cleared, man. I want to start out by first thanking you on purpose and on camera. Those who can fast forward back, and I'll drop a clip here of you gifting me my starter kit for Indiana baseball. What I love about you is you are so passionate about Indiana baseball. What about that drives you?
Well, I'll tell you, it's obviously when you think of Indiana, baseball is not the first thing you think about. We don't have a major league team, MLB. When you think of Indiana, you think of, the movie Hoosiers, you think of basketball and you think of that whole nostalgia right there. But what a lot of people don't know is the great history and legacy that we have in baseball here in Indiana. It goes by, I'll throw out one quick story going back to Fort Wayne, Indiana, which of course is where the Tin Caps play, the now high A affiliate for the Padres. Yeah. But that's another story. My ADD is going to kick in here and we're going to go all over the place, man.
Let's do it.
But so in Fort Wayne, just one story to give you an example, going back to, this is 1871. I could be wrong on this. Late to mid 1870s. There's a team called the Fort Wayne Kiki-Yongas, and you can Google that, Fort Wayne Kiki-Yongas, and they were part of the American Association, which it later formed into our modern day major league. It's the earliest league. If you think of tracing back like a genealogy of MLB, this American Association was the earliest league that, in the sequence of, buying out and everything like that, eventually came into Major League Baseball. And the first game in that American Association was the Fort Wayne Kikiangas, and they played the Cleveland Spiders. And I can't remember the score. It's like 3-2 or something like that. But so officially the first ever Major League Baseball game, if you look at it in a 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon kind of way, the first ever Major League Baseball game was played in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So that's just one story. You know, there's a lot of them. Of course, our Negro League heritage is, you know, fantastic here. So I guess you kind of think of it, I'm like the biggest cheerleader of Indiana baseball, but it's, you know, it's not just that history. We have a lot going on now too.
Well, that's what I was thinking, because you celebrate it from the high school level on up. What is it about what is it about the game that resonates in your community so much?
Well, it's, first of all, in the youth baseball, this is kind of a big soapbox in mine. I'm a big cheerleader on this. Obviously, I love Major League Baseball. You know, you're not a hat collector like me and not like Major League Baseball. But I think the people who are not looking at everything below Major League Baseball, obviously minor league baseball, independent pro, college, summer, all the way down to high school and even lower, and the reason I like high school so much, because I get this question a lot, you probably won't find anybody in the country that has, you know, almost 300 high school baseball hats in his collection. But it's because it's good, but they still make errors. You know, it's not perfect. And that's why I love to watch about it. Some of the best games I've ever seen in my life at all levels are at the high school level, because they are a high level, but they're also because they make errors. They're human. So it is still a game. It's not just this science that we see right now in the bigs. So, you know, that's kind of a short summary of why I like the amateurs. Plus and I you'll probably feel me on this too. It's the lower leagues. There's a level of humility to it. It's humble. You know, you can't be cocky in baseball, period, because it's going to humble you really quick.
Humble you, yeah.
And that stands out a lot more in the youth leagues. You know, it's you see a lot of humility in the high school leagues. When they start to get cocky, well, wait till next inning and things change.
Yeah, wait till the next. Exactly. I want to ask you, and I honestly didn't know I was going to ask you this when we sat down, but you know, you're in Indiana, and you are arguably in the state of the most sort of recognized, honored, I guess, college football team with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And I see you have a South Bend Cubs hat. You've gifted me one. What is Notre Dame baseball like? Is it a thing? Do people go? I mean, does it matter? They're a very legit thing. As a matter of fact, in 2020, before their season got canceled, I believe they were 11-2 before their season got cut short. Of course, they brought in Link Jarrett, which was his first year last year. He comes from a long line of baseball lineage. It's either, and I'm going to be quoted wrong on this, either Mississippi or Vanderbilt, but you know, either one are just legendary college programs. So they brought him in, and they've always been good. You know, if you look at Craig Counsell, the head coach for Milwaukee Brewers, he's a Notre Dame Irishman. You know, they've got a long history. Matter of fact, there was, of course, 2020, there was only 5 rounds in the Major League draft. And I think there were 2 Notre Dame Irishmen that were picked in that short, truncated draft. So it has a lot of history, and it's only getting better. And I can say that really for a lot of the D1 schools here in Indiana. So let's talk a little bit about that then. So I want to talk about some of your collection and just kind of tell me a little bit about some of these teams. And let's start with the hat you have on your head, which is one of my favorite things minor league baseball came up with, which is the Copa de la Diversión. I know who you're wearing, but tell everybody else who you're wearing.
Well, this was the Fort Wayne Tin Caps version of the Copa de la Diversión, and I butcher that. that I just call it the Copa hat. But how sad is it that we didn't get to see actual games in 2020 with all these Copa hats? I mean, that would have been so much fun. And you know, matter of fact, this one hat I've often been quoted, of the 1,000 hats I own, this is my favorite one, just because what it stands for, the level of creativity. When I bought it, matter of fact, I don't know if you can see behind me, I got a few more left. I bought 6 of this very hat when it came out, and I've donated all but 2 of them. This one, and I have another one back there. So I hit one of them to you.
Yeah, mine's up there. I don't know if you can see it in the shot, but it's right up there. So
spreading the gospel on this hat right here. So it's a lot of all the Copa hats. Of course, the South Bend Cubs had the great Copa hat, paying homage to the GOAT, of the Chicago Cubs.
I love that.
Also, and I've got the Fort Wayne Tin Caps on. Yeah, and Indianapolis Indians actually didn't do one, which kind of surprises me. But I've got about 30 of their hats already, so I'm good with that one.
One of the things, my favorite hat that you give to me though was I think it was the Lafayette Aviators. That is my, and I actually let my grandkid. You got one back there? I'm sure you do.
This was, I think the one you got, and then they have another one which is a pretty cool logo right there.
Oh, that's really cool.
And that that name, the Aviators, comes from right there in Lafayette where Purdue is, which has a history in the aviation industry, going back to Buzz Aldrin and all them who went to Purdue. So that's where the Aviators come from. So I'm plus I'll just go throw this out here real quick, but Lafayette Aviators also are finishing up their new stadium this week here, which is going to be fantastic. They're giving a total facelift to Loeb Stadium. And it's been a great stadium for a long time. It was originally built back in 1940. And it hosted, state final baseball games and all kinds of big events, but they just gave it this fantastic facelift, and it's got a great water park and a big water slide over left field. I mean, just a great family atmosphere. The Aviators are a college summer league team, but it's got an atmosphere that's conducive to minor league baseball even. So I'm really excited to go up there and see my buddy Ace, the Aviators.
Well, I'm excited too. That has been one on my list of because I know we're trying to figure out what we're going to see when I do get up there. As we wrap up, you are probably need to be a more regular guest because you could I feel like you have a wealth of knowledge about this. But I want you to look into the future. You and I have spoken privately and on Twitter about where things are going. You've mentioned all these historical reasons why these teams are named that. That is why I think baseball is so imperative to our culture. As we look at Manfred One Baseball, are you worried about where it's going, or do you think the game survives?
Well, I go back and forth on that, and here's why. Obviously, I've been kind of outspoken on distaste or hesitancy, we'll say, from different sides of the continuum on some of the things that comes down from Manfred's desk. Obviously, and just looking at Indiana, we have let's back up a little bit. Let's go back to the 1920s, 1930s, 40s, 50s, and really all over the country, but definitely in the Midwest and definitely in Indiana, there was local nines, the local baseball team. You just had your local nine. And then they start to get successful, then they become a franchise, then they become part of a independent pro team. But then they falter. It's a history of baseball organizations that try to make it because it is a hard business. So the reason I say that is part of me is hesitant on being too excited about all the things and all the ways that Manfred and MLB is partnering with minor league baseball, for example, or partnering with the independent leagues, for example. And of course, the shuffling up they did of the minor league this year, that's a whole nother show, and you'll get me off on a rant on that. But so as you can see, I can get frustrated like the things he did with minor league baseball, but is it, and it's really, I'm answering your question with a question, is it necessary? Because a lot of minor league teams, they can't make it. They don't have the attendance, whether it's the market, whether the front office staff, I don't know, and I'm not making any stance on that, but it is a very difficult business to succeed at. And I think just looking at the history, some of the things that Manfred is doing right now is really not that different compared to what MLB's been doing for a long time. If you want to see a perfect example of this, look at the great documentary on Netflix about, and you're going to have to help me out here with the name, the team in Portland.
It's the Portland Mavericks. It's the bastards, the battered bastards of baseball.
Yes, great documentary. I highly recommend it because it's a perfect example of what I'm trying to reiterate, which is that it can get ugly. And, MLB got a really bad name for what they did in Portland. But we have to ask ourselves, was it going to be able to succeed otherwise? In Portland case, it probably would have, but in other places it wouldn't. And so this could be a necessary evil. So I'm hesitant. The way I've said it to kind of sum up my random thoughts here is that baseball is a hard game. And the one thing I'm kind of excited about, especially for these independent leagues that are now have a level of partnership with minor league baseball, is minor league baseball is without question all about the money. That could be a good thing. That can definitely be a bad thing. But for these independent leagues, now they have some financial backing. To
Sure.
what level, we don't know yet, but there is more money in the pot now. And I think that's going to bring up some of these minor league team or these independent pro teams to be able to do some of the things that the minor league teams do that we all love. Just the community events and things like that. So,
you make a good point. You make a good point, and I'll compare it to everybody freaking out when Disney bought Star Wars. But my whole thing was Disney didn't buy Star Wars to lose money. They did it to make money, and the way to make money is to make you happy.
Right.
All right. Well, hey, thanks so much for jumping on your very first appearance, first of many, I hope. He is Heart of the Hat Guy. And I want to say thank you so much for everything you've meant for the show, man. Your support has been unbelievable. We really appreciate it.
Well, I am a fan of baseball, but I'm a fan of what you're doing too. Keep it up.
And we cannot do a Hat Day special without talking to our favorite Hat of the Day person, Spencer Schwartz, who has been our New York Yankees Hat of the Day guy. Spencer, first of all, wow, he has come loaded for bear with some goodies to show us. Spencer, first of all, how are you doing today, man?
Doing very well. Thank you, James. Feeling good and happy to be here. Thanks for having me on again.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about last year before we look at the new ones you have down here with you. That one on the left looks sweet on my left with the Yankee with the logo. Tell me how the year ended up. Like, you were doing the Hat of the Day. I know people were getting really involved. How much fun was that for you, especially thinking about what the year was like with the pandemic?
Oh, it was a gas. I mean, the New York Yankee Hat of the Day, it really took off. I mean, it took off in a way that I never perceived. I mean, it started off as something where I just wanted to meet and socialize with fellow fans. And I just thought I'd start posting a hat. I figured maybe people get bored of this, after some time. But it kept going. It kept happening. And the thing that really blew my mind is that people were really interested. They were very interested in it. That really blew me away. So I was really glad to offer. It certainly gave me an outlet to show all of my caps, and it's a nice way to socialize with fellow baseball fans and fellow New York Yankees fans.
One of the things that and I'll give you my compliment to you, is it really helped me a lot last year, and I think it wasn't just like, here's this guy with the same passion that I have, but your attitude about it, you're positive. You were always, you're just always positive, and on an app not known for that. So I just wanted to thank you. How cool was it though that you also connected not just with Yankee fans but other hat enthusiasts? I know Hardy the Hat Guy, who was on the same episode as well. How cool was that to find somebody else that was also interested as much as you are in these things?
Well, the history, James, is back in 2016. When I first started experimenting with, it was before 2016, but 2016 is when, I was still kind of feeling my way around Twitter. And I was really in the closet about my cap proclivities. So I just thought I'd try to, do a search and see if there were other people out there that enjoyed caps as much as I do. And that's what I found. And so on Hat Twitter, there's about 40 individuals. And we're just a bunch of people who love nothing more than talking about caps and posting our caps. And every day, there's always somebody that's got their caps on, and you hit the like button. Maybe you make a comment about somebody's caps. So Hat Twitter actually came before the New York Yankee cap of the day. New York Yankee cap of the day just was actually an offshoot of Hat Twitter.
One of the things that I think speaks to when I talk about you being a positive guy, and I think one of the better examples of people that are using the app, you're also very generous with other people who have a cool Yankee hat. You'll give up your platform. How important is that to kind of really help maybe people that are going to have the same, like you said, the same proclivity you have, but also to give them the confidence and maybe some bandwidth of yours. So many people that they have an audience, they want to hold that in, but you're okay with sharing it. How important is that?
What I find is that when I select a cap of somebody else, I'm always a little nervous because what I'm really telling without using words is that I've copied their cap, I've saved it in my bookmark, and I've been keeping it there, waiting, for the right time to put it on. But that was really an offshoot of just, again, me. I'm enthusiastic about caps, and it really just came down to there's no rules about the New York Yankee cap today. And if I see a cap and if it looks great, I want to share it with people. And that also has taken off too. I mean, people are really, really appreciative. Usually when I do that, I'll get a private message from the honoree, and they'll be very thankful about that. And so I'm blown away. So I'm really happy to do that for people as well. And it just, it continues, that level of positivity. Yeah, when it comes to caps also, I check my team loyalties at the door, and you have to, because it's just, I'm really into the thing about how, we're all, at least with the cap collectors and the nation of cap collectors, we're all into our hats. But it's interesting to me how everybody has their own preferences as well. You've got Mets fans, you've got Stros fans, you've got NBA fans, you've got fitted hat people, you've got snapback people. Everybody's got their thing. So it's really interesting to me how we're all connected, by this cap thing. You really can't explain it. It's just there. I think a lot of people also love caps too. That's what it is. I mean, now you may not be buying 600, 700 caps, and stashing them away.
Right.
But I think sports fans in general, they like caps. They really do.
I wanted to ask you about, you had, and we made a big deal about on the show, so generously sent me 4 Yankee hats to pick from. I want you to know that when I was using them in the movie, I tried to be very gentle when I took that one off. And it was a cognitive, as an actor, I was like, because I made fun of the Cubs one, and I was like, yeah, this looks really cool, just not me, instead of poking some fun. But, there you go. You ended up becoming a costume designer for a short film.
I was very honored, to play some small role in that wonderful movie. That was terrific. Great production.
Thank you so much. Speaking of great production, do you have some caps with us to share with us today?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, you got me on the show. I got to show a few caps.
Let's show some caps.
This is the 2020 what's called the Clubhouse version. It features a silicone-based logo. Very comfortable, very fun to wear. These caps always come out around spring training. And so it's a sign, that the baseball season is coming. This is the third year that they've done this collection.
I have a couple of those. I have an Astros one and a couple of them. And I actually love how they fit.
Yeah.
And it's a little different look to the logo that I kind of really like.
Yeah, I like it also. I like the subtle differences that they have, in comparison to the other caps. I don't know what it is, because they're very simple in design. And I think, you got to credit New Era in their marketing, because I like how it's called Clubhouse. It could almost be a cap that you could see the players wearing. It seems to intimate that it's a cap that, the players wear in the clubhouse. They don't really do that, though. But hopefully someday it'll catch on, so you'll have your spring training caps, your batting practice caps, your clubhouse caps,
Absolutely.
For every part of the game. On Hat Twitter, we have a Secret Santa. The members, they exchange gifts. And so my Secret Santa this year gave me, this is a brand new collection, or one of the most recent collections. It's the intertwined logos. So these were just released, and these are really cool. I'm really looking forward to putting this one on, and to getting into the cap rotation.
So y'all do a Secret Santa on Hat Twitter?
Yes, exactly. We do it every December. and today was one of the best. This year was one of the best years that we had, and it's terrific. It's put together by a gentleman. His name is Graham. He's Canadian, and he gets everybody's addresses and hat sizes, and he distributes, who is going to get who, as far as getting a gift. So this year, my gift was for a nice guy named Andrew Hoddle. He's in California, and he preferred minor league caps. So I gave him a taste of Jersey. I gave him the Lakewood Blue Claws, and I was happy to send that out to him.
Very cool.
He's got like 1,000 caps. Also, he's a serious cap collector.
Yeah. So can certain podcast hosts become part of the Secrets? Never mind. Well, that's a question.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll get you in there.
I love that. That's so great.
Yeah.
And so what else do you have to show us today?
Here's this one. I can't wait to wear. It's called the visor patch. This one is again, it's another brand new collection. The reason why I'm showing these new ones is because I keep my caps stored away. So when I take out a new cap, it could be 3 or 4 years old, and the collection will already be outdated at that point. Not that it really matters, the cap looks good, it looks good. But I do get new caps, so I want to show some new ones that we have. And they have one for every team: the Astros, Red Sox, Mets, you name it, you can get it. This is the cap of the day.
Oh, that's such a sharp one.
2016 All-Star Game. Now this one is I like to talk about this one. This one has no All-Star Game patch on it, so it is in essence like a regular cap. And the story behind this one is I was in New York City, and when Modell's was still open, they just unloaded a bunch of these. I mean, it was like a cap lover's dream, especially a New York Yankee fan.
Yeah.
The thing is, I'm a 7 1/8, whereas we say in cap language, I'm a 1/8. And all they had were 3/8 and 1/4. They didn't have one cap, and I went to 3 Modell's, and all 3 of them were like loaded with caps, but no 1/8. So I had to take my my weather seal, and I had to put it underneath the headband, so that my 1/4 will fit like a 1/8 and feel a lot more comfortable.
That's clever, though.
Just a couple more that we have here. This is what's called the print edition. It's got some red. I know some anti-Red Sox fans will say something about that. Pretty cool pattern, with the undervisor. And this is what's called the Circle Collection, for obvious reasons. Got a nice side patch that you see over here.
Oh, great.
Yeah, these were some of the caps that were released in 2020. So 2020 was a good year, and really looking forward to 2021. I can't wait to get that email from Fanatics and MLB Shop that says they're here. The spring training caps are here. Order yours now. That's like part of the ritual, the baseball season beginning.
Absolutely. I can't wait for that either. Speaking of baseball season, real quick on your Yankees, how is the offseason feeling to you? I know for Astros fans, it's been like crickets. How are you feeling about it?
I think it's crickets everywhere. I think there's a lot of uncertainty with the season, which is why you're not really seeing a lot of these signings happening. It's really a lot of nondescript signings, a minor league signing here and there. I know the Yankees just got Glenn Allen from San Diego, but I don't think most fans know about it. The Yankee fans, of course, are impatient and nervous about DJ LeMahieu. My thoughts on that issue is I think the Yankees analytics department is giving information to Hal Steinbrenner and Brian Cashman, the general manager, and I think they're saying, they're projecting the arc of his career, and that's going into their stance on how many years and how much money they will give him. And of course, his DJ LeMahieu's camp, they have a higher number in mind, which is understandable. But I think it's hard for teams to really commit just because there is this uncertainty about the season. We're not going back to, fans and getting 20, 30, 40, 50,000 fans at a baseball game. So I know that's a very big factor. So I can understand that. Myself, I'm just trying to be patient. I'm just waiting for the news to happen. And in the meantime, I'm watching my Australian baseball. every weekend. That's a lot of fun. So, for fans that are hungry for baseball, there is baseball out there. You can always check out international. I prefer the Australian Baseball League myself. I think it's really cool. They're a world and a day ahead of us and a world away. And it's just amazing to me, how they've got this love of baseball there also. So that's my thing. So that's what's helping me get through
and this is exactly why we love you. This is how you helped me get through. Spencer, thanks so much for jumping on our Hat Day episode, and we cannot wait for more New York Yankee Hat of the Day.
I can't wait to talk to you again, James. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. Continued success with the show.
Raiders of the Lost Diamond, a look into baseball's past.
So we are excited. We are back on the first Raiders of the Lost Diamond of the year, although not of the season because of the way the season goes and everything else. But it's National Hat Day. My hat brother is on. Andrew, first of all, how has the new year treated you? We haven't seen you since our Christmas episode.
It's going pretty good. There have actually been several exciting hat arrivals. So that's pretty good in my book.
As we record this, I'm waiting for two. I'm waiting for Asheville and Bowling Green. So
nice.
We'll see.
So I got to do something a little bit cheesy, a little bit like internet 10 years ago for a second. Okay. So I promised you I'd be revealing the ultimate baseball hat.
Uh-huh.
And yo, dog, I heard you like baseball hats, so I put a baseball hat on your baseball hat so you can wear a baseball hat while you're wearing a baseball hat.
Oh, my God. Where is that from?
So for those just listening, I just put on a Quacker Jack baseball hat. It's the mascot of the Long Island Ducks, and he is wearing a miniature version of the Long Island Ducks on-field cap.
It is a sight. You know what it looks like? It looks like you were on your way out of Disneyland and you had bugged your parents for a souvenir, and that was the one that they were like, this is the one that's not $100. This is awesome.
Yeah, I was really excited when I saw it, and then it came, and it's a little bit on the small side for an adjustable hat. So it's like, oh, is this a youth hat? But no, it fits.
It fits.
So
you are now contractually obligated to the rest of the show in that hat. But we thought because you do play baseball and you play old rules baseball, and we thought it would be kind of fun. You're also our historian to talk about the history of the baseball cap.
For sure. So when you think about baseball caps, oftentimes people think, and when you think of 19th century baseball hats, especially, people tend to think of the pillbox hat. And that's not inaccurate, but it's also not where we started with baseball hats. So initially, there was no such thing as a baseball hat. People just wore whatever hat they had. You wanted sun protection. There weren't really baseball uniforms. So you just wore what was comfortable and what would keep you from getting sunburned. As baseball became organized in the late 1850s and early 1860s, we started seeing the emergence of kind of a jockey style baseball cap, which is very similar to the modern baseball hat. This isn't exactly it, but it's pretty close. This is an 8-panel hat. It has a standard hat brim, so firm. This is similar to what I wear on my vintage baseball team, except that's a 6-panel one.
Okay.
So it's a low profile hat. It's got a firm brim, kind of almost similar to like a modern dad hat, but not quite as unstructured.
Okay.
Besides those hats, there were also something called the Boston style or 8-panel baggy hat. And what that is it looks kind of like a, sometimes they're described as like a driving cap, where it's got a standard brim, but then it's got a baggy kind of floppy body to the hat.
I know exactly what you're describing. I know exactly, like and you would have the leather gloves and they would race.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Very much like that. So those were really the prominent hats in the very beginning of baseball in the 1850s and 1860s. and really up through the 1870s. And then in the late 1870s, 1880s, you started getting the famous pillbox hat, which people think of when they think of 19th century baseball, which is a high-sided cylindrical hat with a flat top and a usually a shorter bill or brim.
Got it.
So the pillbox hat really took off in the 1880s, was prominent in the 1880s and 90s, and hung around until the early 1900s, and then it started getting replaced with a couple of other hats. So one of the hats that started replacing it was a more standard 6-panel hat like this, and often the short brim was in style in the 1900s and the 19-teens. This is a reproduction of a 1915 Newark Peppers of the Federal League cap. And as you can see, you compare this to a standard brim, it's much shorter.
Much shorter. Okay, yeah. It looks almost like a train conductor hat.
It does, and especially with the pinstripes.
With the stripe, right.
So. That's actually one of my very favorite styles of hats. I love a short brim. I don't know why, I just do.
Okay.
As the 19-teens gave way to the 1920s, you started seeing another evolution of the baseball cap, in that the 8-panel hat was becoming very popular, and you had these low-profile 8-panel hats. Now, all this time, all these hats are primarily being made of wool flannel sort of material, and you'd often have a leather sweatband, but sometimes a cotton one.
Okay.
This is a reproduction 1928, I believe, St. Paul Saints hat. I should have looked it up before I came on, but it's a 1920s St. Paul Saints hat. You can see the low profile. It's got a soft brim, but it's a standard size brim, much longer than the short brim on the 19-teens style cap.
Right.
And these hats were prominent in the 1920s and 1930s. Sometimes they were short brimmed also, but often they were the standard brim. It provides much better sun protection than a short brim does. But oftentimes you'd see these kind of all crumpled up. Sometimes you'd see people with them flipped up like this, because you could do that with a short brim. And that could provide sun protection if the sun's behind you. And then as the 20s gave way to the 30s, we started seeing more familiar modern 6-panel hat styles.
Okay.
This is a 1938 Minneapolis Miller's cap. And this is probably my very favorite hat because it's a standard 6-panel wool hat. You can see the structure looks very familiar. There's kind of the little dimples you get at the front. That's a very authentic baseball feature that you'd see on hats really up through the 70s and 80s. But it has a short brim. So that's the thing I really love about it. It's a short, non-structured brim. That's not standard. More often you would see a standard structured brim, which would be longer and less flexible.
Sort of more like what we're used to. They come
exactly
almost flat.
Yep. As we moved into the 30s, moved from the 30s into the 40s and 50s, hats are starting to look even more familiar.
Okay. And who's this one for?
So this is a 1961 St. Cloud Rocks replica, and the shape profile look much more similar to our modern day. We've got the little dimples on the side there, but it's a standard 6-panel hat. It's a little taller, but not as tall as like a 5950.
Yeah. And
it's got a standard firm brim. So it holds a shape if you bend it. It starts off flatter, but with use you get it shaped so that you get that nice curvature and sun protection.
Yeah.
Now, as the 60s moved into the 70s, we would once again see the revival of the pillbox hat. I don't have one, unfortunately.
The Pirates were the ones that were famous for those, right?
Yes, the Pirates and several other teams did wear them, but the Pirates wore them longer than most of the other teams. And that was kind of tied to the American Bicentennial in 1976. There was this huge crave for retro things and historical commemoration and reenaction and such. So that's what really drove that return to the pillbox hat. And the pillbox would stick around to a certain extent through the 80s. The Tidewater Tides, the Mets minor league team at the time, wore them for quite a while into the 80s. And you can still buy a reproduction of those from the Norfolk Tides, they're called now. One of the other innovations of the 1970s was in the 60s, you started seeing hats that had the front white panel. So, solid color in the back, but a white panel in the front. A variation on that was something called the bell hat.
Oh, that's one of my favorite hats too, man.
And so this is a modern recreation of the bell hat, but you can see that instead of a solid panel, it starts out narrower at the top and expands down towards the bottom. Mm-hmm. And this is the Fort Myers Miracle faux back hat that I know you also have. It's also one of my favorites. But the San Diego Padres were probably most famous for the bell style hat, although they weren't the only team that did that.
Okay.
As we moved on into the 80s, you started seeing more uniformity. Their teams contracted through whatever company that they made a deal with. There wasn't an official MLB supplier of hats, but you started seeing Twins Enterprises, which became 47 brand nowadays, and New Era really coming on the scene, and eventually New Era becoming the major league supplier of hats. So what I have here is a retro style, a modern recreation of a 1980s, early 90s style New Era fitted hat. And this is still all wool. You'd see wool really stick around through the 80s and start to shift into a wool polyester blend in the 90s.
Oh, okay.
One of the features of this hat that I really like that's very true to retro is a white band. Mm-hmm. Most hats, even the ones that had leather bands, and they did usually have leather bands up until sometime in the 80s and 90s, had a white or cream colored band. So you can imagine they got pretty nasty on baseball players' heads. The green underbill, something that you see.
I missed those. Yeah, you don't see that anymore.
Yeah. You saw it really up through the beginning of the 20th century up until the 90s. Yeah. You had the classic green bill, something else I really love about this hat. And you're starting to see kind of the high profile that we see on modern fitted hats, and not so much the little dimple that you'd get on older wool hats.
Got it.
Now this is a recreation. It's not 100% accurate. And I do have a couple of actual period hats, but they're not fitted. So they're a little bit different. One of them is one of my favorite recent acquisitions this is a 1993 or 94 Bowie Bay Sox hat.
Oh,
it was brand new when I got it, never worn, still had the tags on it, looked absolutely pristine. Now it is a snapback hat. And one of the things that we started seeing in the 80s and more in the 90s was fan gear really started showing up, licensed fan gear.
Sure.
That wasn't something that existed really before the 1980s. You'd buy like an iron-on or a sew-on patch and put it on a hat that you bought.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have the on-field replica that you can buy today. So you really started seeing that take off in the 80s and especially the 90s. And in the 80s, you started seeing the advent of the snapback hat because you can sell a lot more of those without having to go with a fitted one.
I remember growing up and we didn't have a lot of money and almost being embarrassed that we had the snapback. And I remember when I got my first fitted, it was like a social moment for me. I know it was like when Jessica got a Dooney and Burke purse or something, like,
sure.
it's weird to think of that, but yeah. And now snapbacks are popular again.
Right. And I mean, I kind of felt the same way when I first got into fitted hats. Like I hadn't had a fitted hat until a couple years ago, to be honest. And like it felt bespoke. It was like, ooh, it feels so nice in my head. Fits perfectly.
Your head, yeah.
But yeah, snapbacks were popular because you could mass produce them and sell them for less money than the fitted hats. And really, the fitted on-field replicas were very short-run things for quite a while. You didn't really see the kind of mass production that we have nowadays, and they were more expensive relatively to how they are now.
Yeah.
The other period fitted hat I have a probably 1993 St. Paul Saints hat, which is fitted, but it's from a small manufacturer. It's a little bit different quality than the new era hat, but you can see we've still got the green underbill here. It does have kind of more of the retro fit. You can see there's the little dimples on the front.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's kind of boxier looking than our current modern hats are. So my reproduction one, it's more bell shaped rather than boxy. It's more rounded and a little higher than this period 1990s hat is. So as we went out of the 90s into the 2000s, they started selling the true, they started wearing the kind of fitted hats that we're used to seeing. You started seeing transition from the green underbill to the gray underbill in the late 90s. And then in the early 2000s, that would change to a black underbill. You also started seeing the availability of the on-field cap as an option for consumers, and that it wasn't so hard to come by and it wasn't so expensive. And those came in a few different varieties. So we have a low profile 5950 here, which looks a little bit more similar to the classic hat. It's not as tall. It's a little wider. Got the black underbill. So that tells you it's a post probably about 2005 hat. And this is a brand new hat that I got last year. We had the Diamond Era hats. So there's batting practice specific hats made from kind of a very fine mesh material. There were batting practice hats in the 80s, but they were kind of like trucker hats. They're kind of loose mesh. So now you have a finer mesh that allows quite a bit of breathability, but it still looks like a solid cap.
Sure.
So here we have an Elizabethton Twins batting practice hat from last year.
Not no more, right?
Yeah, not no more. They'll be they're currently the Elizabethton Appalachian League team.
Yeah, TBDs.
And so then we end up with the current high-profile 5950 hat, which is the current on-field standard. This is a custom hat. This was actually a poor choice, I guess, because it doesn't illustrate the black underbill that you usually see. But it's a higher profile hat. They're usually a wool polyester blend. This one is actually still wool. But this is a Casper Ghosts hat, which we talked about on Raiders of the Lost Diamond not too long ago. And it does glow in the dark.
It does glow in the dark, yeah. As we wrap up, one of the things I find, so are you more like for wearing every day? Are you a 5950 guy or a 3930 guy?
To be honest, it depends. I really do like a fitted hat, but sometimes I don't. So I have 5950s. That's probably actually most of my collection is fitteds, either 5950s or like Ebbett's reproductions or something like that. But and for a while when I first got back into hats, it was all fitteds. Like it's got to be fitted. Like it was that kind of that bespoke quality, sort of like this is my size thing was a thing for me until probably sometime last year, to be honest.
One of the things that I find, because this is the 3930 for the Blue Rocks.
I like that it's still, completely enclosed, but it feels more like a ball cap. And I feel like on my head, I'm going to throw on my Hagerstown Suns hat that I just got. Like, I feel like it just, like, for me personally, I don't think it looks very good on my head. It feels too high. So it's so weird to me. One of the things I find frustrating, though, is that it seems like, even though this is supposed to be, I can't believe I'm letting this hair be on TV, be on the show. Even though, obviously, a 5950 goes by hat size, I hate the fact that sometimes they don't fit the same.
Yeah, this is actually a little loose, and this is my 7 3/8 size hat.
Like it's not like we're talking about women's dress sizes and there's an algebraic formula that equals a 4.
Yeah. But then, so I do have quite a few flex fit hats I've gotten. Part of that's grown out of my love of summer collegiate league teams because they usually don't have sized fitted hats. And I really love to support them, and they've got some really neat looking ones. This one is not a collegiate league one. This is a Clinton Lumber Kings Clinton Pilots throwback hat.
Oh, I know all about it. I got my son-in-law one for Christmas.
Nice.
Yeah, he loves it.
And sometimes I want something that's a tighter fit, and that's when I go with the flex fit hats, or if I'm going to be doing like a vigorous activity or something, like if I think I'm going to be sweating, I'd rather be wearing a flex fit hat. They usually have a nicer band for if you're going to be sweaty. They're usually cheaper too, so I'm less worried about ruining them.
Yeah.
And then I also do wear dad hats from time to time.
Oh, look at that, Columbia Fireflies.
Yeah. So, the nice thing about the dad hat is you can fit it however you want. You can have it kind of loose. You can have it kind of tight. It's not structured. They're usually kind of soft. You can crush them up and put them in your luggage.
Yeah.
So they're kind of becoming one of my go-tos for traveling. Although some of my replica hats that are less structured, I also like for that. But then I'm also more worried about losing them or having something happen to them because they're more expensive.
And I usually pack 3 hats when I travel, so it's like
the whole
Me
thing. Too.
Before we wrap up, I want to ask you your best guess. Whatever we're calling it. I don't know if we're calling it affiliated minor league or franchised minor leagues, whatever we're calling it. Are we having seasons this year, or do you think that they're going to have to skip another season?
I think they have to.
They kind of do, right? Like they can't, like at this point, with enough collegiate summer leagues last year showing you and Americans showing you how to make it work.
Right.
They kind of have to make it work to survive.
Yeah, I think they have to. I think it's probably not going to be a full season like we're used to. I think they're going to be shorter seasons. But what I've been hearing is they're planning on having spring training start on time.
Okay, so then my last follow-up question, because you're in Minnesota, the Great White North, although we had a lot of snow.
I saw.
It was crazy.
That was a nice snowman.
It was, we did our best. Actually, they've increased in size, so we're doing good. Every 20 years, they increase in size. The big rumor now is that Double A and Single A might not start till May, but then play all the way through October. I'm guessing for you, though, that's better because fewer lost games to cold weather.
Yeah, for sure. Although, let me tell you, baseball in October gets a bit chilly here. Baseball in September and August at night can get kind of chilly. Not usually August, but September definitely. As long as they play, I don't care. I'll be out there. I have warm baseball gear I can dress up in.
Hey, I'm always down for an excuse to get a hoodie. All right, then final question. Then you and I are going to be seeing some games in Wisconsin together. Are we masked or no?
Ooh. I wouldn't bet against being masked at this point. Just knowing what current immunization looks like, and that we're probably not going to have really widespread public immunization until late spring, early summer. You might not see mandates anymore, but I'll probably still be wearing mine unless I feel really strongly differently about it.
Well, hopefully as a teacher, I'll have my vaccine sooner than later, and that might change the metrics. All right, Andrew, Thank you so much for jumping on to our special Hat Day episode, and we'll be back, in about a month to start the season. So we're looking forward to it.
All right. Thanks for having me, Jim.
And now, on to close it out, the right-hander from Houston, Texas, James Christopher.
So that does wrap up our Let's Get To's National Hat Day. The best part about recording this right now, she has no idea what I'm going to order on National Hat Day. What do you think? But as you can tell that I'm with two of my favorite ladies on the planet. Of course, my wife, Jessica, and Quint, who's giving Big Mommy kisses.
Little kisses from my little girl.
You didn't know this episode would be PG-13, did you?
Exactly.
But, we had the competition at the beginning of the year to give her full name. And so her name is Quint, after the captain in Jaws. And we have decided, because of AKC, the way the registration went, to give her two middle names.
Absolutely.
So the first one, you'll notice that we're both wearing hats from the Bowling Green Hot Rods.
Totally digging this new hat, by the way.
It's a good looking hat on you.
It's a cool hat.
It's a good hat.
I love it. I love it.
And we have a collar for the Bowling Green Hot Rods. And we are naming her middle name, her first middle name will be Quint Turbo, after Turbo the Bat Dog.
And I think it's especially appropriate because sometimes when I look in her face, she looks like a little bit like a bat.
And I'm a big nerd, and Ace, the Bat Hound, was a German Shepherd. So her being named after a bat dog is appropriate. Hey,
absolutely.
Hey, Quint, we're trying to record, baby girl. We gotta record.
She's very talkative. So that's her first middle name, and then her second middle name is actually going to be Rhubarb. So it'll be Quint Turbo Rhubarb, named after the Tacoma Rainiers mascot, which we really felt a great connection with the Tacoma Rainiers when we went and saw them in 2019. We were able to go with Jordan and Max and Braxton and had an amazing time. So a very special family connection, if you will, with Rhubarb. So that's it. It's Quint Turbo Rhubarb.
Yeah, and we got some photos of both Max and Jordan, the kids, also wearing Bowling Green gear and Tacoma Rainier gear. We're excited to continue to support both teams and have her be linked to those. And that does wrap up our National Hat Day special, like I said. And we'll be back in about a month for season 3's premiere. We've already started to really nail down our travel plans. So until then, stay safe, stay sane,
and let's get to.